Welcome, this is the Feeder of Souls, and today I'm going to quickly rank every Dragon Quest Monsters game. This is a bit different from what I usually do, but we'll see how it works. These are, of course, between S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, and D tier, which means each game will be ranked depending on how good it is, not just relative to other games in the series, but just on a whole compared to other video games out there. So let's start with Dragon Warrior Monsters 1. This is, in my opinion, an A tier game. This is a very strong entry into the franchise, and it has a lot of strengths, that being able to expand on the mechanics of Dragon Quest V in a way that isolates it in a more enjoyable environment where it can focus on the whole aspect of catching monsters. It does have a few weaknesses. For example, since the main dungeons in the game are all procedurally generated, it can be a bit hard to find the monsters you're looking for at any given time. But it all ends up working, because generally you know what monsters are in which dungeon due to the help of some of the NPCs. Overall, it's a very strong game, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who's a good fan of RPGs or Dragon Quest monsters. Especially if you like things like Pokemon, then I'd recommend playing this as well, because this, in my opinion, is better than old school Pokemon. Moving on to Dragon Warrior Monsters 2, this is both Kobe and Tar's Adventure will be ranked together since they're almost exactly the same game. And I'm going to have to say, this is an S tier game. This is one of my personal favorite games of all time. You can rely on this game to be interesting. Not only are you able to easily figure out where each monster is, since every world in the game for the story is all pre-designed, you have some better dungeon designs as it was actually intended to be. It was built with intention, is what I'm trying to say, which is something that generally is lacking in procedurally generated dungeons. However, this game isn't perfect, of course, but it is fairly close. It has plenty of monsters for you to breed, and it allows a whole large amount of creative freedom to be able to design practically any monster you want to be as overpowered as you want to make it. It also has a great post-game options, being able to use procedurally generated world keys in order to explore an infinite amount of optional content. Also, one of my main sources I use for when I'm making informational videos is known as the Darkseer breeding site. You can find it easily at this link, and it has the location of every monster in the game, along with the things you can use to breed them. So if you're ever looking for something specific, you can use that for this game. Now, moving on, Dragon Quest Monsters Caravan Heart. This is Japan exclusive, which means I technically shouldn't be allowed to rank it, but I'm going to anyways. This game is going to be sitting right around C tier. Now, that might sound bad, and that's because it kind of is. Although I'm sure if I played the game in English, it might be better, but I honestly can't tell based off of the Japanese version I played. So, if we're not including the story, how's the actual gameplay? Well, it's not nearly as good as the previous two games in the series. It personally felt like to me that your options were a lot more limited when it came to actually creating the monsters you wanted on your team, and you found yourself often spending more resources just to get the monsters. It also felt like the focus kind of shifted from the monsters, which are the namesake of the game, to more of like a Dragon Quest III sort of feel where you're supposed to recruit random humans. And when your humans are doing more than your monsters, can you really call it Dragon Quest Monsters? Moving on to Dragon Quest Monsters Joker 1, the first Joker game. I will be ranking all three. Joker is a B rank game, B tier game. It's not a bad game by any means. It's better than Caravan Heart. It's just not as strong as the Game Boy. However, they are shifting towards mechanics that will be present in future games in the series, and this will, of course, help lead to much better games in the future, as you'll soon see. What Joker does do well is it allows you to have freedom to be able to go to wherever you want, albeit limited freedom compared to some of the other games. What it is lacking is a lot of diversity when it comes to breeding monsters. A lot of them are dependent on their own personal ranks of A, B, C, D, etc. As such, you're somewhat limited by how good the game tells you these monsters are, which is something that you don't really encounter in the first two Dragon Warrior Monsters games. Also, for some weird reason, they removed the mystery family, things so all your boss monsters are moved into different families. Although I'll be talking about that in a future video much later. Anyway, B tier. Dragon Quest Monsters Joker 2 actually takes everything that Joker 1 does well and it improves upon it. That being said, it's still not an A tier game, it's just higher up on the B tier. You still can rely on this to be a fun game, it's just not going to be as strong as the Game Boy games. It does, however, do better than Dragon Quest Monsters Joker 1. Joker 3 is Japan exclusive, and I have been unable to play this game, so I cannot personally rank this game. However, what I can say is if you watch a lot of other Dragon Quest Monsters content on YouTube, you're going to find that a lot of people like this game. A lot. So I could say that it's a high tier game, but since I haven't played it, I'm not allowed to. I don't feel like I'm allowed to rank it. So I'm going to say it's probably good and move on. Now, Dragon Quest Monsters The Dark Prince, this is S tier, no doubt about it. This is probably the best game in the entire series. It takes everything from every other game and it refines it into this wonderful package. The gameplay is smooth, enjoyable, and balanced. You're able to have plenty of access to over 500 monsters. The story is great, if not completely original. It does rely a lot on Dragon Quest IV, which is a game you should definitely play. It's just really good. I just can't say much more about it. Everything is well designed, and doesn't take long to beat either. I was able to beat it in a couple of days, and it was so good that I never really was able to put my Switch down after I picked it up. Truly, probably the best game in the series, regardless of whether or not you actually play video games, or even Dragon Quest Monsters or Dragon Quest. If you're just watching this video because you feel obligated to by a friend or a family member, I don't know, you're going to want to play this game. This game is great. I would 100% recommend it. That all being said, that's pretty much the end of this video. It's something new, and whether or not you agree or disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments what your favorite Dragon Quest Monsters game is. Well, you could also let me know what your favorite Dragon Quest game is, and I'll see if I can make more references to it in future videos. If you have ideas for future videos, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to take other people's ideas and call them my own, but I will give you credit if you do give me an idea in the comments. That all being said, you don't have to subscribe if you don't want to, but feel free to if you do. This was Defeater of Souls.